there, welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you follow me on social media, you may recognise this piece. I haven't moaned about it once. Not. This piece has been a burden to me for the last few weeks, and actually, I'm telling a little lie because I've had this years and I've tried to paint it twice before. So when I first started out furniture painting, I just went and bought loads of furniture, and I have what some might say a little bit of an unhealthy addiction. So I've got some storage units, and when this piece got kind of too much for me and overwhelmed, because it is a big piece, there's quite a lot of work that needed doing to it, what I did is buried my head in the sand and put it in my storage unit and forgot all about it. Until recently, I've made a decision I need to clear down one of those storage units and work through the stash that I've got before I buy anything else. I have bought some stuff recently, but we'll pretend that hasn't happened. Anyway, this is one of the pieces that I grabbed first, and I decided to tackle it. It's taken me a few weeks. There's been a few bumps along the road, but I will try and explain everything that I did in the video, and hopefully you'll enjoy seeing the transformation. Okay, so the story behind this is I reckon I bought this probably at least 5 years ago, if not more. I do have 3 large storage containers that are full of second-hand vintage antique furniture ready for painting. One of them has had a small leak, and that has affected some furniture. Now, I don't think this one's been too badly affected. As you can see, it's not in the best condition, but that has been under a blanket for several years in the storage container. There's lots of cobwebs, there's quite a lot of dust, and I did actually start painting this many years ago, and I wasn't sure what to do with it. Got a little bit overwhelmed and decided to put it out of sight, out of mind, and it stayed there ever since. So the first thing I'm going to have to do is see if there is any damage. It's a pretty solid piece. I don't really like mid-century furniture, but I do like this kind of ice cream man in the distance. I do like this kind of stuff. So I'm going to try and be really sympathetic in how I finish it, because mid-century isn't one for really kind of doing crazy paint effects or anything like that. So I'm going to be sympathetic with the finish as much as I can, but obviously it's going to be colourful because that's what I do. And yeah, we'll see if we can rescue it. So first of all, I'll show you that this piece is actually a G-plan piece. It's a G-plan Brandon, and that just refers to like a specific model within the G-plan range. And what I meant is, when I said mid-century isn't really one for doing crazy paint finishes on, you can obviously paint whatever finish you like on whatever piece you like. But I feel like there's the market in the UK is more suited to kind of cleaner lines and a kind of more simple paint finish on mid-century pieces, and I think it's going to be more sellable if I do that. Obviously I've got to clean this piece first, so the first thing I did is got my vacuum, hoovered all the loose dust away, gave it a really good clean with Dixie Belle's White Lightning, and then I gave it a scuff sand on all the areas that I plan to paint. There's always something, isn't there? I found here, and here, where the cupboard has been kind of damaged. I mean, I could probably do with taking this door off anyway, but that's gonna need a little bit of repair work. So I'm gonna have to try and figure out how these doors, how the hinges come off, and I'm not really sure. This door confused me so much. I knew there was a way to remove it, but I couldn't figure it out. In the end, I took it to social media, and while the camera was off, as always, Andy came to the rescue and helped me remove it. So as you can see there's the little bit of veneer that's kind of split and lifted around the hinge area. So I'm just using wood glue to basically glue that back in place, and then I'm using a couple of clamps just to hold it down, and then I'm going to let that dry for at least overnight and just get on with a few other bits whilst that's drying, and I'm hoping that'll hold. Spoiler alert, it doesn't. And then there was a slight bit on the other side as well, but the side closest to the camera was the worst. So set that to one side and let that dry. And then I really wanted to keep some of the wood visible on this piece because I feel like it's going to break up the colour that I'm going to use at a later date. So I sanded the base. I'm going to start with the base first and get that out of the way and done with. I'm actually using my detailer attachment on my Festool sander here. If you want to know more about the sander that I'm using, I'll link a video top right now, and that explains a little bit about the models that I have and the difference between them. So as you can see, they're interchangeable. I've got the usual rectangular one that I use most of the time, and now I'm just wrestling with the extractor hose, which basically sucks the dust away as you're sanding, and I'm going to put that on the other attachment that I have and then plug it back into the power, and then this is going to give me the detailer attachment that I need to get in all the kind of nooks and crannies of the base. I'm using, I think, a 120 grit here to take the existing finish off, and then I just finished off with hand sanding, and then finally a 220 grit just to make it nice and smooth. Whilst the piece was upside down and all the drawers were out, I just gave it a quick once over with Big Mama's butter in the orange grove scent. So this is going to nourish the wood, but it's also going to give it a nice scent as well because it was a little bit musty. And then, still keeping with the piece upside down, I just want to get the base done so that I can flip it over and do the rest of the piece and not have to worry about the base again. So this is No Paint Gel Stain in the colour American Honey, which is perfect for mid-century pieces because it's got a really nice kind of warmth to it, which mid-century pieces do tend to have. And I also think that this is going to contrast really nicely against the paint colour that I choose for this piece, which is obviously going to be a shade of green. I mean, did you expect anything different? I actually wiped this stain back because obviously it's going over raw wood, and I applied 2 coats of this to get a really nice even coverage and a rich colour. And then once it was dry, I used Dixie Belle's flat clear coat to top coat it. Big Mama's butter is an oil-based stain and clear coat is a water-based product, but you can use this top coat over the top of an oil-based stain. All you need to do is make sure it's thoroughly dry before you top coat. I left mine 2 days before I added my top coat. So for these little bits here, they're kind of like a concave design. If you can hear any background noise, that's Herbie. The kids are off school. So this is like a sort of a concave design, and I won't be able to get my electric sander in there to sand it back, and I'd quite like this to stay wood if I can keep it wood. So I've got a little bag of tricks, and I got these off Amazon, and what they are, they're like rubber sanding kind of profiles, and you just wrap a piece of sand, you find one that fits. So that was potluck, the first one that came out of the bag. Looks like it's going to fit in that kind of, not alcove, you know what I mean. It's like kind of like curved in. So all you do, get your piece of sandpaper, wrap it around the shape that you need, and then sand away, and that works. So I basically use that method to sand the existing finish off any areas that my electric sander wouldn't be able to get to. It took a while, but it was worth it in the end. And then there was some areas of damage here and on the other side in a kind of similar area. So I just used wood filler to basically build those areas back up again. Once they were dry, I sanded those nice and smooth, and then it was time to unclamp the door. Now, I thought this had kind of done its job, like it looked like it had held pretty well. I filled the crack and sanded it back, and we'll come back to this shortly. I wish I had the camera on because I have just managed to get the glass out of here. I didn't think I'd be able to, so I took the top drawer out of there, and then really carefully I kind of just loosened this joint here, which is the top bit of the frame that holds all the glass in. So I loosened that and just pulled it up like that, and obviously then I was just able to take the glass out, which means it's going to be a lot easier to clean and sand all in here than what it would have been with the glass in. So I'm really pleased I managed to get that glass out. I did want to paint inside of here because it's not in the best condition, so I'm glad I was able to get the glass, the sliding glass doors out of here. There's also an inner shelf that fits in here, which is glass as well, so all the glass was put to one side, out of the way of kids, dogs and me, because let's be honest, it's a danger zone, quite honestly. And then I got ready for the piece to be primed, so I wiped any dust off the surface and removed anything that was obviously from left over from sanding. And then I'm going in with Bond Embossing Grey. Now I am going to be using Silk Mineral Paint, which has a stain blocker built into the paint. However, you can still prime if you want to. And because there is quite a lot going on here, it's an orangey toned wood, which is susceptible to bleed through. I'd obviously got a lot of different kind of bits of filler and repair work. It's also made up of a couple of different types of wood. So the inner bit is not the same as the outer bit. So I just thought giving it some primer is going to, giving it a coat primer is going to help me just get a really nice, even, consistent finish to my paint. Also, what it lets you do is highlight any areas that are not perfect. So this grain was quite deep in areas, and adding a primer allows you to see if there are any areas of kind of imperfections where you might need to add a little bit more filler. So as you can see on the top here, some areas of that grain was super deep, so I just filled it with some watered down filler and then sanded it smooth, and then went back in with another coat of Bond Emboss. And this way it obviously eliminates you having to put several coats of paint on and kind of sand over the top of that, but it just gives you a really nice base in order to put your paint over the top of. And like I say, there was a lot going on under here, a couple of different types of wood, lots of repair work, so this is just going to help me with the stain blocking, and it's also going to help me give a nice consistent base. Once the Bond Emboss had been dry for 24 hours, that is the advised amount of time to leave before you apply any paint. I just gave it a really light sand before applying my paint, and then wiped any dust off the surface. The colour that I'm going to use is Everglades, and it's from the Silk Mineral Paint range. It's one of Dixie Belle's newest shades, and this kind of olivey green colour is going to contrast really nicely against that warm toned wood. As you can see, the coverage is absolutely phenomenal. Even though we're going over quite a pale primer, it covers amazingly. I tend to work in small areas, so I did the top first, got the paint on, and then before it had chance to dry, I just lay it off. So all that means is you take your paintbrush and really lightly smooth it in one direction. I'm working left to right here, and that gives you that really kind of flawless, almost sprayed look without having a paint sprayer, because I don't own one. So I'm just working in kind of small sections, which gives me a chance to lay it off and make it smooth. And I was getting along swimmingly. I was getting along absolutely fine, just happy as Larry, painting this gorgeous green colour over the piece until a spider. I don't like spiders. So every time I have a little about spiders, Bella comes running, because Bella eats spiders for me because she knows I don't like them. But I don't think she's going to get in there, so I'm going to have to get the Hoover out, and I'm sorry in advance to anybody that likes spiders, but I can't. That was my other dog getting up, getting ready. I can't. Oh God, it's moving. I don't like it. You'll not get your snout in there, Bella. Oh, it's hiding. Don't do that. Don't make it difficult. Let's move that, because I'm going to knock it over. Also, I'm sweating a little bit now. That's just ruined my day. Big guns coming in. Oh God, I'm sorry. Oh, it's moving. I'm sorry. Sorry about that. Don't mind big animals. Spiders literally give me the skin. That. No, sorry. So let's resume with painting. Spider free. I apologise profusely to any spider lovers out there. I don't like hoovering them up, but I had no choice. I was on my own and I had to get it out of there. So I painted the rest of the piece in green, let it dry, and then I'm using No Paint Gel Stain again in the same colour that I did on the legs, and I'm just going over the areas that I sanded back. So there's a little bit of wood here and there, and that's just going to break the green up. I wanted to get this done last thing at night so that it could dry overnight, and I also used Howdy Do hemp oil for all of the drawers. There's 3 drawers in total, 2 at the bottom, 1 at the top, so I took them all out and they'd already been kind of cleaned, sanded, and I'd painted the fronts. So I used Howdy Do hemp oil to basically do the same thing that Big Mama's butter does. It does a very similar job. There is actually hemp seed oil in Big Mama's butter, and that obviously is going to help nourish the wood and do all the things. But Howdy Do hemp oil is just another product that I thought I would show you, and I'm just literally pouring it on, wiping it in with a rag, letting it kind of soak in, do its thing, and then wiping the excess off with a clean rag afterwards. Okay, so I just bought the piece in here to stage. This is going to be my bedroom, but it's not finished yet, so I'm using it as a staging room. And I wrestled with the door to get it back on because you know the problems I had with the door taking it off. Well, I heard some wood splintering, which is never a good sign. And the little bit here, which is one of the areas that had lifted originally, it just didn't hold. And that is only due to the fact that the door has to go in at such an odd angle. So this isn't ideal, but what I don't want to do is take the door off again because it's an absolute nightmare. So what I've done is I've peeled off the veneer. You can see how thick it is because you could see it. It was visible. There was a hairline crack where it started to lift. Also, that's the tumble dryer in the background, by the way. Apologies about that. It's raining in the UK, surprise, surprise. So I've taken that off really, really carefully. And then what I've done is I've just filled it in situ with some really strong 2-part filler. And then I'm going to leave it to dry, sand it flat, and then repaint it in situ. Ideally, I'd want to take that door off and do it off the piece. But I'm not taking the door off again because it's an absolute nightmare, like I say, and it's only going to cause more damage. So I'm going to attempt to do it in situ. So I've just put the 2-part filler on. You can just see it here. I've taped off this bit and I've just put it on here. So I'll really carefully sand that smooth once it's dried, repaint it, and see if I can get it to look nice and smooth. So I was really, really hoping that I could get away with sanding it in situ, but deep down I knew that the chances of making it look right were very, very slim because I did have to kind of rebuild that corner where the wood had split and I'd taken the veneer off. I even tried my electric sander, turned the power right down and tried to sand it smooth, but there was so much to contend with. It's such a small area, and obviously I had the frame to the left, the painted area at the bottom. I was getting dust all over the piece. So anyway, I decided to, in the end, I did take the door off again. I just knew that I wasn't going to be able to make that look as flawless as it needed to be. So I took the door off and I refinished the door off the rest of the piece. In the meantime, I polished up the glass, put all the drawers back in, made sure everything looked nice and sleek and smooth, and just kind of rebuilt that corner back up and then sanded it all flat. And actually the door didn't take too much sort of effort to get off the second time round, and it went back on okay as well. So I shouldn't have avoided doing it in the first place. Anyway, here's a couple of close-ups of how the piece finished up and the final shot. As always, thank you for watching the video. If you aren't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you liked the piece, how it turned out, my colour choices and my design choice. I'm really glad I stuck to it, although I probably won't be in any kind of rush to do a mid-century piece again. I feel like I just need to go crazy with texture and colour and all the things next. So this is definitely a learning curve. Like I say, I hope you enjoyed the video and I will catch you next time. Bye!